Hey guys, it's Robbie from Syzz-O FPV. Um, so you can see I changed my name there if anyone who has subscribed before. Um, I used to play video games and all that, kind of got bored of them as I've gotten older a little bit now. And I've been searching the internet lately, and these videos of this first person drone footage that people were getting really interested me. So that kind of piqued my interest for the hobby. And as you can see, I've started building one myself. So this is my first build ever. I haven't done any of these before. I just barely got started with this, and I actually haven't even flown it yet. But I've ran into a few things along the way that I'd like to share with people on the internet here, and hopefully some of you guys can learn a few things from the mistakes I've already made. So yeah, that's kind of I've just kind of gotten interested in the hobby. So this is my first build. So I just threw these on here for show and tell here, but we'll set these to the side so we can kind of look at it a little bit closer maybe. So I'll just do a quick breakdown of what this is, so anyone who's not familiar can kind of get the gist of what's happening. So this is just one carbon frame that you can buy. It's like $14, I believe. And you just have screws kind of all over the place that hold it together. And that's kind of what the bottom looks like there. So the frame is very strong, and it's built to be light but also strong. So it's hollow down the middle here, as you can see, because it has to house all the electronics that let it fly. So basically the gist of it is that you have four motors, and those four motors need to be controlled somehow, and the electronic speed controller, which I have a 4-in-1. Usually people would have one for each motor, but I have 4-in-1. The electronic speed controller is there to tell the motors how it wants to function based on inputs from your controller, which come in via a receiver, which is this blue board on the top here. And through the receiver, it actually goes through this flight controller on the top here. And the flight controller has some fancy wizardry software and everything that can decide how the ESC should control the motors. So that's kind of the easy breakdown of it. Then, of course, it's FPV, so you need first person view. Well, the way that works is you have this video transmitter tucked down inside of there. That's hooked up to the flight controller as well. And then you have a camera on the front, which I need to 3D print a mount for. That mounts up here in the front. And then that will allow you to see through the eyes of the drone, essentially. So that's basically the breakdown of just a simple freestyle racing drone, whatever you want to call it. This one is made for 5-inch props. That's what these are. They're 5-inch props. I find that is what most people are running right now, is the 5-inch ones for 4-cell lipos, which leads me into kind of the battery setup that I have. So the batteries are an important part for this. This is what we're looking at here. It's a 4-cell, 1500 milliamp hour lipo battery. That's what mine runs off of. A lot of people are doing 3 cells, even 6 cells, which are pretty crazy. These things are pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, but they work really good, at least from what I've seen from my friends, because I have not flown yet, but we'll get to that. So I keep mine in this cold case lipo guard because I don't know if any of you have seen videos on the internet, but these things, when they blow up, it's not good. They get really hot, and so you don't want that going on in your house. So you want to just tuck these in here. And of course, I got these straps for the battery as well, and a pad for my battery, so it'll go on here, and then in the event of a crash, hopefully it will not slide, which I've kind of tested out. These straps, they have a really nice material on the bottom, kind of like this material here. It really locks down the battery and it doesn't move, so I would recommend doing something like that if you're gonna do this, because you're gonna crash. That's pretty much a given thing, because they're so fast and they're so light and they're really crazy. So you definitely want to get something to kind of secure your battery down really tight, like a anti-slip pad, because otherwise they're probably still going to slide off. So another thing that I haven't set up yet, some LEDs for it. These look really cool. One of my friends have one, the LEDs on them, and he put his across the arms here, right on the back, and it looks really, really cool. But that is not necessary at all. But if you have the ports to mount them, then it could be a fun thing to do. One thing I haven't talked about yet is the fact that I actually painted the edges of mine here. As you can see, just around this edge here, it's to match the motors. I did it all the way around. I did it up in here as well. I thought it looked pretty cool. And all I used was this, I think it's an acrylic paint marker thing. It's got like a felt tip on there. That worked really good, actually. So if any of you want to know how to do that, make it look like this, and that's how you do that. And also these foam pads are really useful for landing, so that way you're not just scraping on the bottom of your carbon and everything. Keep that lamination on there for a lot longer if you have those pads on there, which you can buy a whole ton of them from Amazon for like, I think it was like $6, and it's like 50 of these. So if you just buy that, you'll be set on these. So that was another thing I learned from my friends, that they were saying just to get those. And these drone builds, you're going to need a lot of tools, most likely. Not really a lot of tools, but tools would help a lot for the build. For mine, I have this tool case. It has a few attachments that you can put on. I found a lot of mine were about 5.5 millimeter. I don't know if that's the exact measurement of the nuts that go on the frame or anything, but I found that was, I believe that was the one I was using, and it worked really well. And I didn't use anything else from this kit other than that, but if you use a kit like this, then it's just like a screwdriver attachment. So that was pretty convenient to have. And I would, if you're going to do a drone build, I would definitely recommend having all these tools ready to go before you even get your parts, because it's just super hard really to set up everything without the correct tools. It's not a good time. But then of course you need everything else for the wiring and whatnot. This right here, this worked really, really good. 2 millimeters. That's what the tip was that I used for all my frame screws. So I believe most frames are using the same hardware, or close to the same hardware, at least the same tip size. So if you need one of these, I would look for a 2 millimeter hex nut driver. Let's see if we can get closer to the camera for you. You can kind of see it. Yeah. So I would invest in that also. So that kind of covers like the hardware side of things, but now we have like the rest of the electrical stuff laid out. Good old electrical tape. I really only used it just to keep wires away from the propellers. It's not really necessary anywhere else, at least not on my build. But it is useful if you need to keep wires tucked away somewhere. And of course, solder and a soldering iron. You're going to be doing a lot of soldering with all your electronics. Sometimes you'll have the ability to use like a plug or anything like that, but a lot of the times it's just going to be you gotta solder it to the board. So don't be afraid to solder. You can mess around with other wires or whatnot beforehand. I really didn't. I just kind of started doing it and it worked pretty good. But I would definitely recommend getting comfortable with that. And these are going to come in useful as well. Some good old wire strippers and snippers. Because you're going to be having to strip some wires, get them to get the wires on the pads on the electronics, and then you'll have to cut them shorter, I'm sure, because they usually send them pretty long. So definitely be handy to have one of these as well. And yeah, so I mean that kind of sums up really the my first trial at building the drone and getting into the hobby. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I really kind of had a hard time with finding information on some of this stuff. I mean, I don't even know if there's a camera mount for this. Like, I'm just gonna have to 3D print something from my friends, and there's just kind of weird stuff like that along the way that I've found that that I've just kind of been learning from trial and error, basically. So I guess as I go through the process, I kind of felt like going through and trying to showcase what I'm going through for you guys and see if through my struggles I can teach other people new things about the drones and the hobby. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. So I hope you found this useful, anyone who's watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. I'll probably do a real build breakdown and go through what parts I actually have in here, and then hopefully by then I will have flown this and I can really give you a breakdown on, does it fly good, is it worth doing a build like mine, or is it better just to buy other parts. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.